everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast Wednesday edition. Everybody is here. Jay, Dion, that happening?
Yeah. Well, it certainly seems like it because they said interesting discussions between the two. Well, Jerry doesn't just have interesting discussions if he don't plan to hire you. I would not be surprised if they hired Dion. And to me, that kind of goes against the grain because I don't think Dion is the kind of guy that's a yes man. So I'm curious to see how this dynamic works out between Jerry and Dion once he actually gets hired, right? I mean, if the guy does well, will there be another Jimmy Johnson episode where, he fires him because Jimmy wants to do it his way and not Jerry's way? That's what piques my curiosity.
I'm excited to see this not work.
I know everybody is, right? I mean, come on. Cowboy haters. Of course you're excited.
Well, I mean, thinking about this in a realistic sense,
Right.
I'm not like I can appreciate what Prime has done for colleges.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's going to translate to the pros. And the reason why I don't think it's going to translate to the pros is that he's not calling plays. He's not deciding offenses or defenses. I mean, he knows how to read a little bit but I got to imagine that his biggest deal in college is recruiting and getting everybody hyped up. Short of that, it's not. I think he's more of the figurehead rather than a coach. I think that he can inspire kids, he can inspire youth, he can have people want to join on his team. I think that there's a lot to be said for that, but I'm very, very skeptical on how this will work in the pros.
Yeah, I mean, I think my question is going to be, in college, it gets to be my way or the highway, right? In the pros, that hits a little different because they're like, look, I'm a multimillionaire. Like, shut up.
I think ultimately his success is going to boil down to what type of staff he can put around him. Like if he goes and gets like a guy like
that's always true.
But if he goes and gets a guy like Robert Salah or something to run the defense, well, Dion's not going to have to worry about running the defense because if you bring in a guy like Robert Salah as your defensive coordinator, Dion's basically going to be like, you're in charge of the defense, do what you got to do, and I'll sit back and watch. And then same thing with the offense. I'll just use Ben Johnson as an example. Like if he found an offensive coordinator that was like innovative like Ben Johnson, he'd just be like, okay, Ben, you're in charge of the offense, you do this. Robert, you're in charge of the defense, you do that. I'll just kind of hang out here and take the success that's given to me.
The only thing is, with Prime, I think first of all, I think he can handle the multi-million-dollar athletes because you know why? He is one. He was an NFL player. I mean, I think he understands that mindset. So I don't think he's going to have a problem. I really don't. I think he's going to be a player's coach, right? He's going to be able to relate really well with the players, right?
Okay.
Where it comes into play for me is kind of like what you're saying, right? Or what Stagger said. He's going to have the right kind of staff around him for him to be successful. I think a head coach doesn't have to be the best. He just has to be a really good game manager. He just has to be able to evaluate good coordinators that can carry out what his idea is. And if he can get the good coordinators like a Robert Salah, or he won't get Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's going to be a head coach somewhere else. But if he can get a guy like a Ben Johnson that's a good offensive coordinator and Robert Salah on defense, I think he could be successful, right? Sure. The challenge for Dion is going to be, like we said earlier, about any head coach. And I think, Bo, you said it pretty well. A lot of people want to come to Dallas because, number one, they don't want to deal with Jerry. And number two, they got the hellified cap situation, right? And then three, there's a third mark where Dion wants to coach his son. Is Dallas going to be willing to trade a lot to trade up to number one to draft his son? There's a lot of things, I think, outside of that I think is going to be harder for Dion. Not so much the coaching aspect, but all the other intangibles, Jerry and things like I just mentioned. That's where I think Dion's going to have a struggle.
I mean, one way to solve that problem would be like you said, if Dion takes the job and he's very adamant about coaching his son, one way to solve that problem would be like, who's picking number 2? The Giants are picking 2, right?
I believe so. Yeah, Giants got 2.
Trade Micah Parsons to the Giants for the number 2 pick.
Yeah,
Clear
because
out-
you think
clear out some salary, clear out
Tennessee
salary.
doesn't go. So you don't think Tennessee goes quarterback at number 1?
I think they take Cam Ward because they're going to want a more proven kind of quarterback that fits that system. I don't think Shador fits Tennessee system as well as Cam Ward does. And Cam Ward obviously has 5 years of experience at the FBS level as opposed to Shador Sanders started at Jackson State before going to Colorado. But if he's really adamant about coaching his son that bad, if he were to take the Dallas job, trading Micah Parsons to the Giants makes a ton of sense because not only do you clear out cap space by getting rid of Parsons, but Parsons is a player that the Giants would build their defense around. You can move up to that number 2 spot, and then you can take Shador.
I mean, Parsons and Thibodeau on the defense. I mean, that's a good start to building that defense.
And the Giants' defense, for the most part, was this. I mean, nothing on their team was really a strength last year, but the Giants' defense, for the most part, was the strength of that team because their defense actually did very well at getting after the quarterback last year. And then you had a guy like Parsons in there to go with what they already had. That defense would be a very good defense. They would just have to retool the offense to get close to the level of that defense.
That's interesting.
I think that he doesn't go anywhere either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
If that's the case, well, and like I guess they were saying earlier, for what they had opportunity, if they let Chicago interview McCarthy, they could have moved on from him and had maybe a better opportunity to bring in a Ben Johnson and all the other guys. What do you think happens from there?
So all things being equal, when it comes to Ben Johnson, they're still in the playoffs, so nothing could have happened yet anyway. So there's still.
Well, they said before he got into the playoffs, when everybody else was interviewing Ben Johnson,
they could have interviewed him last
the decision. Then they could have interviewed
they
him. Now they have to wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
now they got to wait until the end of the season. So that kind of puts them behind the power curve, is what they're getting at, obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, Dallas routinely does that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they do.
Whether it's contract with their players, their coaches, for whatever reason, they like to wait too long, pay too much, when they could have done it earlier, been ahead of the curve, and paid less. I don't know what it is about Jerry Jones, but he likes to drag his feet until he's forced to make a decision.
Well, hell, the man's 82 years old. I mean, he's not exactly a whippersnapper no more.
No, exactly. It seems like you'd want to get those decisions made.
Oh, yeah. I think that's where Stephen Jones should step in and say, hey, Dad, man. Like, he should probably put that bug in his ear, but maybe Jerry doesn't even listen to his own son. I mean, who knows?
I don't think Jerry listens to anybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
83, that is solidly get off my lawn age.
Oh, Lord. But you know what? Okay, so let's say, what about a Glenn Allen? Do you think Glenn Allen, if they interviewed him, do you think he might come to the Dallas Cowboys?
I mean, he's a good coordinator. Like
Yeah.
he very realistically could be a good coach. I don't love a first-time coach for the Cowboys.
Right.
The only first time coach that I think would have some success in Dallas is a guy like Todd Monken, who's been a head coach before on the college level, but he's been a coordinator now for 25 years in the NFL. He's gone through different regimes. He's gone through different head coaches. And I think a lot of people are kind of comparing him to Bruce Arians, where Bruce Arians had to wait almost 30 years to get his first head coaching job. And once he got that job, he was very successful with it. I think Todd Monken could be kind of similar, where he's waited so long that he's got so much knowledge built up that he'd be able to hit the ground running with it.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think a coach could be successful. I think you'd struggle to be successful with that organization.
Yeah.
And only because, obviously there's the Jerry Jones aspect of it, but there's also the unrealistic expectations of it, right? Like that'll be Steelers fans calling for Tomlin to get fired, right? Now that they're out of the playoffs, they're fucking fire the guy. And it's like, you want to get rid of the guy that, the team hasn't had a losing record in 20 years, right? What's the one thing you need to do to have a shot at a Super Bowl?
Have a winning record.
Make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you want to get rid of a guy and then say that's the first losing season they've had. That fan base is going to lose their minds.
Yeah.
right? Say they're decent, but you do the same thing. The fan base will lose their minds. So, I mean, it's just one of those. The only way, if you fire him, whoever comes in after has to almost win for that fan base to accept it. I mean, when you look at Seattle, it's the same thing. We had a 10-win season. We have parts of our fan base like, we should fire him. He's not very good. It's like, that's a double-digit win season. Like, what do you want?
Yeah, and you're right about the first head coach type of person coming to Dallas wouldn't be good, because in Dallas there's so many issues that you're going to have to work through financially, roster management, I mean, coordinators and stuff. You're going to have so many issues that you're going to need an experienced. I do agree with you. You're going to need an experienced coach to navigate all these waters to resurrect that damn shit, you know?
Yeah, well, and plus you're going into a situation where you have cap trouble. You haven't signed you have all your picks, but you don't have any cap space. I don't know. It's not a great scenario.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's a great job opening, right? Not to say that some people won't want it. Of course they will. There's only 30
that same exact thing. Troy Aikman, I listened to Troy Aikman on one of the shows, and he said the same thing. It was like, he's just like, yeah, I don't think this is a coveted job. I'll be honest. You mentioned the Steelers a second ago, and I do believe that they may consider really letting him go. I think that he would be the perfect fit in Dallas. I think that actually that type of scenario is exactly what Dallas needs.
Absolutely.
Now they'd have to do. They'd have to make sure that their offensive defensive coordinators are better, obviously. But that's. I think that would be like a win-win situation for Dallas. Not that I want that, you know what I mean? But I think that that would be a perfect scenario for him, because he is not your traditional coach. He's going to get involved, but he's going to let the people do what the people got to do.
Yeah,
and that's part of this. I mean, I even heard that there was a real chance that they were going to go with Belichick. The reason why Belichick didn't want the job, and that's why he took the North Carolina job, but he may not stay as North Carolina's coach for any length of time, that he may wind up back in the pros here before this year is over.
Yeah, I mean, the buyout of it really isn't terrible. So
I'm curious, but what makes you think that the Steelers would let go of Tomlin? I mean, because they don't have that kind of
conversation is happening, because they're discussing it.
Yeah, they've been talking about it for 2 years. Even before they got his extension done, they've been talking about potentially moving on. But then he has yet another winning season. So then they're like, well, who are you going to get that's better? I have heard the scenario that maybe they try and go bring McCarthy in. And that is curious to me. I want that to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. I do too. Because honestly, I mean, if we could get a guy like Tomlin in Dallas, I would be ecstatic. I'd be excited because I do like Tomlin. I do like that. Well, I mean, look what he's done with Pittsburgh, right? I mean, he hasn't had when he moved on from Ben Roethlisberger, they haven't exactly had the best of quarterbacks. I mean, they've had the bargain basement Ben, Trubisky's and Rudolphs and stuff like that. I think if you can keep a winning season, it's Pickett's, if you can do a winning season with those kind of guys, I think he would do phenomenally with what Dallas did. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, Joe, I like Gruden too. He's not going to get a job this cycle. Like, if he's going to get back in, he's going to have to do it. I think it's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
People need to see him around the league again before, and not to say that he hasn't, because obviously, he's done some consulting, stuff like that. But they need to see him employed by a team first before I think he gets a head coaching job again. But it's coming. People are starting to overlook the email thing. They're enjoying that he's back around sports. He's got a podcast he's on. Like, they're starting to kind of bring him back into the NFL. So I don't think it happens this cycle or probably even the next. But for him to be on a staff in the next couple of years, I could see that.
Yeah. I can see him being an OC even this year, depending on the situation.
No.
You don't think so?
He's gonna he has to get back into the media for a year.
Yeah.
I think Barstool Sports is trying to help that out a little bit. And once he gets back into the media for a little bit of time, that's when he'll be reconsidered. This whole thing with the Redskins is almost over now.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, now that it's almost to the point where everybody forgets.
Yeah.
You know, because truth of the matter is that all the emails that they got from him, and he was the only one that did it. I mean, he was really talking trash on the organization. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
he
and
was.
it's so shady that you're telling me in like 160,000 emails, Gruden was the only one that said dumb stuff, and Snyder exists in life.
Well, Snyder was the one who outed Gruden.
No, I
because
understand.
That's what happened.
but
So now,
you don't think he responded in kind in some of those emails? Like,
I'm sure he did.
if there was ever a witch hunt, that was it. I mean, you're talking an insane amount. There is no way that there weren't off-color comments from everyone in any of those email threads. I'm sure everyone on this panel has said something extraordinarily stupid in a text or an email.
not
No,
me.
I never have.
Probably in our group chat.
I don't know what you're talking about, Bo. Probably never happened. I'm sure the 160,000 emails. I'm sure there's plenty of dirt on Snyder. But I mean, Snyder's already lost his team, so I mean, does it really matter about Snyder anymore? I mean, he's not even in the NFL anymore. So I mean,
it's not that. It's the fact that the only person targeted was Gruden.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
part that is questionable.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I know we talked about maybe even having Gruden get a GM job. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a GM job somewhere.
Again, this is where he's got to get back in the public eye for a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
So Rex Ryan, head coaching job for which team?
I still think he ends up with the Jets.
So do I. Like if
or a GM or something with the Jets. Like I think him going back to the Jets just makes 2 months sense because it was the last time they were relevant.
No,
Colin Cowherd.
What that's why I brought this up. Are you saying Colin Cowherd talked about something, or are you talking about Colin Cowherd being a coach? Because that really wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That being said, I would watch that. I would watch that happen because I don't think it would work out great. But if you, I'm not sure what you mean by that. So
do you think Rex Ryan though gets a job with the Jets? Because I think Rex Ryan could probably maybe resurrect that organization.
It was the last time the Jets were relevant, and they had Mark Sanchez as a quarterback. The only thing they had when he was there was a defense, and he got him to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row with Mark Sanchez. And since then, they haven't done anything. They haven't made the playoffs since he left.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be dumb not if they have an opportunity to hire him. They'd be dumb not to bring him in because I think that would be
even as a GM or anything, like any part of that organization. Would be stupid not to bring him in.
Just to change the culture. That's what we were talking about. Culture changes. Now he could definitely change that culture. Hopefully bring a winning culture back.
Okay, so you're just trolling. I got it, Brad. All right.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rex going there would make sense again. And he wasn't even, it's not like he was fired by the owner there. He was fired by the GM at the time. So he still has that relationship with the owner. So I see a path forward there. The only thing is they're interviewing half the planet, right? Like they have so many people on their coaching interview list that, I mean,
which actually that falls in the Rex Ryan's favor though, because you have all these other candidates who are looking to get hired. So obviously they're going to interview, and if they don't hear back from the Jets, they're going to go interview somewhere else, or they're going to try to latch on to like a staff somewhere else to have a better opportunity. Versus Rex Ryan, he's sitting on TV. He can just be like, I can sit here till March. Whatever. If they want to call me in March, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, he's got an easy, ESPN contract. So, I mean, if he doesn't get hired, it's not like it hurts him at all.
No, but he could be like one of those guys that absolutely waits, like versus a lot of these young assistants. They're not going to wait too long, or if they don't hear back from a team by maybe middle to late February, they're going to just look to stay where they are or latch on to another staff and try next year versus Ryan could just stay waiting as long as he needed to.
No, I disagree with that.
I also don't mind that they are interviewing the world. I think that this is when you have as much dysfunction
Yeah.
as you do in a franchise, you can't make any more rash decisions.
That's true.
And
You can't make any more
interviewing
mistakes at all.
interviewing half the world allows you to get a general perspective from more than just 8 guys in terms of what they believe your organization is.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think that this is a real world coming to Jesus for the owner. I think that that's what this is happening here. That
I mean,
he's like, it's like I got to interview everybody here because I want to hear everybody's opinion. I
Mhm.
want to see what everybody's got to say about this because I don't trust the people around me anymore. I don't trust me anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel that that's what happens when successful people, like you have to go back to basics here, just
Yep.
the same way when it comes to tackling or anything on the field. This is what made him successful, was that he was able to make right decisions because of the information given to him. I
Yep.
think that he has made poor decisions because of the information given to him, and now I don't trust anyone. So
Yep.
because I don't trust anybody, I have to figure out where my trust is going to go because it can't be me anymore. And that's why he's got to talk to everybody.
No, I
Yeah.
agree with that. And say you did go with Rex, I disagree wholeheartedly that he, it doesn't matter if he waits, because what that does do is it means all of the coordinators you want to bring in are probably gone
Mhm.
because they're going to be on staffs. So I mean, even though he has a job where he can hang out, there's other jobs on that staff that he's going to have to fill that can't wait.
Well, I think that you have to, when you are in the Jets position, you are hiring for a minimum of 4 years. And you got to let that full 4 years play out.
Absolutely.
You cannot,
I
you
agree with that.
cannot trust what happens in year one because there's too much dysfunction to get resolved that quick. I understand the NFL, you could go from worst to first in a year, but they're not in that position. They are in a much worse position, and that whoever they hire, I do not believe it's Rex Ryan. I think that
I don't think
that Rex Ryan's the easy answer for everybody, but I think that it's not Rex Ryan. I think that you've learned that you've been there, and I understand that he took them to 2 AFC Championship games, and he was a good coach, and blah blah blah. But the truth of the matter is that you've been down that road. You've seen where that's gone.
Mhm.
I mean, I personally, I want winners. I do want champions. I do want guys. I would take a chance more on a first year coach who has been across the finish line as a player or as a coordinator and understands what it takes, and then tell him that you have now 4 years. You're getting 4 years and you're stuck with me. There's a no quit, no fire clause almost for the first 3. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
well, I mean, I agree with you too. I don't think Rex is the answer. I don't think they actually hire him. For a multitude of reasons. One of them being he's been out of the league for 10 years now.
You know who would be a good hire in my opinion, that I'm surprised no one has even really considered him, just because Josh McCown's kind of getting interviews. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick would be a good hire for somebody.
All right. The reason why he's not getting the interviews is because of his playboy attitude.
Yeah.
That's it. It's you can't have that type of attitude and be a coach. He might be a leader of men, and he might be a leader of men because of his swagger, but the swagger doesn't sell as a coach. I understand the thought process that you have behind it, but that's the reason. I mean, I can't see that. He would have to. He would be another one that would have to go to college first, or
Yeah.
spend an actual moment as a
Yeah.
coordinator or something. And I don't think that occurs. I think, or maybe even be a quarterback's coach.
Well, that's what
But
I was saying.
I think he loves his fucking job. Watch
Oh,
my
no
language.
question. No
Him and,
question.
Pat, him and Pat McAfee love their jobs a little too much.
No. Like he definitely loves his job. And if he was going to do it, he would have to take that McCown approach.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, this is Ryan. Yeah,
He'd
I
have
mean,
to go
just,
through and be a coordinator or quarterback's
right.
coach. Like he'd have to be on a staff. You're not going to get the Jeff Saturday action where you're just thrust into that position.
Right.
Yeah, because like he has no coaching experience. I mean, I don't know how anybody would hire somebody with no coaching experience. I don't.
Yeah, but I mean,
That'd be hard.
that's not really true. Only because
Okay.
he's held the clipboard for so long. The problem is that everybody held the clipboard for. He was like he had a voodoo doll that says, "All right, we're gonna break your leg right now, and now I get to do it." You know what I mean? So it was like
You wanted to play. What do you want?
that's exactly it. I mean, he played more frequently than he held the clipboard.
Yeah.
So, but I think that he actually helped the quarterbacks around him as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if how old's Andy Dalton now?
35, 34, 35.
He'd be like a next quarterback's coach that gets real recognition quick. I think that he is like that guy, that he's going to be a very big up and comer the moment he retires. Because it's ultimately, I think he doesn't want to retire because he doesn't want to get out of football, but he also doesn't want to stop. Like I think he wants to be in as part of everything.
Mhm.
So I think that he's probably going to go from holding a clipboard to coaching right away. And then I think that he will get streamlined to be a head coach.
Yeah, I could see that one.
So, but I think McCown's going to wind up getting a job. And he's already coached. He was playing football and coaching high school football.
Yeah.
So, he's been doing it. He's 40 years old. He knows what's going on. He knows what's happening. He knows the league really well. I think that he would be a very good head coach. And when I saw that, and I only saw him on for one, because I think that once your name gets on one list, it goes on other lists. And, it's like when everybody thought Nick Sirianni was ridiculously bad in his first interview.
Mm.
But ultimately, he wound up, getting the job. So, wow, that's so funny to see that.
Is it because there is a star, or like what? I have so many questions right now.
That's the ESEN account with Frankie, where it's Frankie's logo that's attached to it.
Got it. I was like, I feel like there's some story that I'm not aware of.
That's hysterical, actually.
He had to switch over to a team that had some rings in the last century.
So it's like, and I know that the reason why there has been very little movement on the coaching front is because everybody is waiting for the 3 teams to get out of the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Of course. The Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Lions. Those 3 teams got to get out of the playoffs. Nobody. What'll wind up happening because of that is Washington will wind up losing one or both of their coordinators do.
Yeah. The only team that didn't is the one on the screen, and because they weren't actually going to interview anybody else, they had their guy picked out.
Right.
So, but yeah, otherwise, all the other teams, they're waiting for, Glenn and Johnson and, those guys that you can't do anything with yet.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel that somebody could make a play for McVay with a trade. It's like you never think about it like that, trading for a coach. But
Shanahan too.
It's been done a few times.
I don't think Shanahan as much. I think that's why the 49ers are holding on to him right now, is that they're hoping for a trade, but I don't believe that they're going to get it. And he's already kind of talked his way out half out the door. So
It's because if you're a Cowboys fan, you have to have a second team that goes to the playoffs sometimes.
You have to have a star in the logo.
Yeah, that's right.
Narrows the field down quite a bit.
but I don't know. I think that I mean, I honestly believe Kellen Moore is going to wind up getting a job this year. He's going to wind up getting hired. I think he's going to get hired for the Bears.
Okay. All right.
That's where I think he's going to wind up going, which means that we're going to need to have another offensive coordinator, and it's going to be our fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years. And I'm not a big fan of that. You know, I'm not a big fan of that at all. I almost wish that we could find find a Fangio, somebody who wants to end his career as a coordinator, end of story. Let's give it a shot. Like, I know, and I don't want like a Marty Morningweg or anything like that. Somebody who has been around the league and never won anything.
You'd want a guy like a Norv Turner who had his opportunity to head coach in his 50s, and then after he kind of struggled as a head coach, he just spent his last 15 years as an OC because he's like, well, tried the head coaching role. I'm better as an OC, so I'll just stay doing this.
I mean, I guess if you were going to go that route, I don't think I mean, you can go look at Schottenheimer, right? Because I don't think he's going to get another head coaching look. He's available.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
think when I think of Schottenheimer, I think of Marty.
Yeah.
And I look at,
Sure.
it's just Marty was really good in the regular season. And I know that his son is not Marty, but I don't know. The apples don't fall too far.
Would you go after a guy like Josh McDaniels for your OC? Because that's another guy that I think he's gotten to the point now where I think he's come to terms that he's just not a good head coach and he's just better fit as an OC.
I mean, in that scenario, you don't have any of the, clock management end of it in his control. So, I mean, the decision making that he was really bad at wouldn't be part of his decision making anymore.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I mean, the offense moved the ball.
Real quick, Joe, I am a Cowboys fan. I'm sorry. I know there's a Patriots logo in there. I let Frank use my computer, and he had his stuff put in there because Frank is a Patriots fan. So there was a little mix up there. I apologize for all Cowboys fans. I apologize. But yes, I'm a Cowboys fan. I know y'all were laughing at that because when I went to the left, I heard y'all laughing. And I was like, oh, man, I bet Frankie left his damn logos in there.
Yep.
Yeah, we just turned out it was the Patriots logo, and I'm like,
We just figured
yes,
you have a second team that
me.
makes it to the playoffs sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, shame on me, Joe. I
not this
apologize,
year.
Joe. I'm not repping the Cowboys like I should. My bad. But no, yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know. I think that like I said, I feel like none of these coaches are really going to make a big difference. And when I think of offensive coordinators, there's a name that sticks out to me that I think would make a very good offensive coordinator. And I'm surprised that they haven't brought this up down in Dallas as him maybe becoming even a head coach.
Yeah.
And that is Tony Romo.
Huh.
I think Tony Romo is actually much better. Like, there's a reason why he became a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys for as long as he was. He
Sure.
is very, very astute when it comes to football knowledge. And it showed in his first couple of years as commentator. The fact that he's making a lot of money, and maybe that's the reason why nobody talks to him about it.
Yeah.
But I think that he would actually be really good as an offensive coordinator. And that may be his claim to fame. I'm
I'll tell you
surprised
this.
it's never been brought out by Dallas saying, you know what, we're going to give this a shot a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Hey, look, after he fumbled that extra point or field goal, whatever it was we needed to get into the Super Bowl, he ain't gonna be no special teams coach. I'll give you that much.
And the funny thing is, I could see Romo even being a good defensive coordinator too, because if you hear the way he talks, even on his broadcasts, and how like he dissects the defense and he also dissects the offense, like he seems to know like a very good grasp of both sides.
That's why I think he'd
He's
be a
hard.
great head coach, because he can talk about both sides of the ball really well. And like I said, Doug Peterson, for all of his flaws, was very good at reading the defenses. He
Mhm.
was very good at calling the plays. He just couldn't execute.
Yeah, well, I
That's-
mean, and he was injured largely, right? Like he just always got banged up. Because if he could have stayed healthy, I think you guys could have actually done something with Romo.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm telling you, every time we got into the playoffs, even with Romo, though, man, something always just went wrong. It just always never ever went right.
Like the catch that wasn't a catch in Lambeau Field, that still is a catch.
Well,
I'm just,
hey,
you know.
we got that worked out on my other show. That's right. A couple years ago, we brought him on, and he said it wasn't a catch.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, got to survive the ground, right?
100%. That
Yeah.
being said, I think that Romo could actually be a very good candidate, and the reason why is I think he can only become a head coach. I don't believe he can become a coordinator, because why would I leave for a coordinator's job when I'm making $8 million a year here, just sitting in a nice cozy booth?
Yeah,
He's
that's
not
a good
wrong.
point.
He's not wrong.
So, and I feel that they've hamstrung him enough that, like, because he's not as good a commentator as he was a couple years ago.
Yeah,
They've really kind of, reined him in some, and I
Yeah.
feel like that he'd be better off as a coach, a head coach. And like I said, it's just a surprise to me that nobody considers it at all.
Yeah, I don't like that they kind of reined him in, right? Like I feel like they hurt his broadcast because his thing was dissecting plays.
Do you think they actually reeled him in, or do you think he kind of just did it on his own, where he's just kind of gotten so comfortable in the announcer's booth now that he's just kind of fallen back in line with just a normal announcer?
No,
I think they heard outside noise of people being like, "Oh, it's getting stale now," and probably forced him to change a little bit.
Actually, what they were more afraid of, actually, and I believe this to be 100% true, is that they were tapping into live time broadcast. He was really good at figuring out what play was about to be called.
True.
So he would be able to say, this is what I would do in this situation. That's what the coach wound up doing, because he actually knew the trends well enough. And the defenses, because they were hearing it in real time, the defensive coordinator would actually take heed to that and start to make plays. And that's when they said, you got to pull back some. You can't announce the play ahead of time. You have to tell us about the play after the fact.
Yeah,
I
well,
think that it's not enough.
I could definitely see that being a thing, because he was, as soon as they'd get into formation, he'd just be like, "Oh yeah, this is what they're going to do. This is where it's going to go." And so, yeah, I mean, I could see that if you're,
and he was right like 90% of the time.
exactly.
Like it was like ridiculously amazing on how
And
well
it wasn't just the offense too; it was both sides of the ball. Like he would be like, "This is what the receiver is going to do on this route, and this is where the ball is going to go." And then on the next play, you hear him saying, the A gap guy is going to come this way, which is going to create a hole for the safety to go on the other side. And then 2 seconds later, that's exactly what happens. I'm like, well then.
Yep. No, I mean,
and that would do,
especially his first 2 years. Like he was fantastic at it.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of think that doesn't go away.
No,
He doesn't do it anymore though, and I think that was because of CBS,
probably.
or whoever he's with. It's just like, I think that once he did that, he's like, okay, I got to stop that, because it was getting out that he was calling these plays out too well. I mean, you remember that Super Bowl?
Mhm.
He practically called both sides of the ball, the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like he knew, like, exactly, this is what they're going to do, bang. This is what they're going to do, bang. This is what they're going to do, bang. And it was like almost 100% correct.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was amazing at it. And yeah, like he'd even go through what the progressions of the reads would be. You're just like, man.
Yeah, and somebody who knows that type of knowledge, like you said, that's
That is
like
what we're talking about,
idiot savant type stuff.
No, for sure. For sure.
And I because he wasn't a very cool guy. You know, it's like I remember when he got engaged and he brought out the team that came to his engagement party, and because he wasn't drinking, they were playing like hide and seek and stuff.
Yeah.
Really, dude?
Like, what
Really?
the heck?
So, but that's that was him. That's the way he did things. So I think that I think that he would make a great coach. Would I put him in New York? No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be a Jets guy. But I absolutely believe like that is kind of who Jerry Jones needs.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones still wants to be able to call the shots, but he needs to be able to have somebody who knows all the like a savant.
Yeah.
Like somebody who's going to be like, okay, Jerry, this is what I got. All right, this is what I got to deal with. All right, and he makes the drinks with the ingredients he has.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue that some of these people don't have.
The team I could see him going to would be like Jacksonville, because they have some pieces. They just need those pieces like rearranged to actually show the picture that puzzle's supposed to be. So I could see him making a difference there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, he was with them forever. He knows the ins and outs of Jerry. So, I mean, I could see something like that.
I can see Chicago too because they have the pieces.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. What do y'all think about the Vrabel hire? Are y'all still on board with that with New England?
That was the worst kept secret in the history of coaching hires.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, you got 133, I think, million in cap space. But I mean, he's going to have to make sure he makes the right choices for all of that money. And do you guys think that he's? I mean, I think Stat Guy. I think you even said that he had probably.
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about that at all. Just because he went to the playoffs 6 straight years with Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis,
right,
Will Levis, and like quarterbacks like that, and got to the AFC Championship game with Ryan Tannehill.
Well, and they're a 4-win team. Like the pressure
is it just me, or does he sound like a robot?
That's on your end.
Okay, just wanted to see.
Yep. Nope, that's on your end. But yeah, no, it's
he might struggle next.
There's
he
not.
Might struggle next year just because they are so many pieces away from being like a contending team again.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not going to be like a lengthy 3-4 year rebuild for him. It might be 1, maybe even 2 years before they get back to a playoff type level. But he's out of all the options,
you think it would happen that quick though? I mean, you think it would be 1 to 2 years?
Just because he's won with a quarterback that nobody really considered a top 15, top 20 quarterback.
I would bookmark that because that feels like a hot take.
That does feel like a hot take. I mean, seriously, holy cow!
No, but
it's either a hot take or he's on some really good stuff.
I mean, you can make the case that Drake May is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill. You can make the case that Drake May is a better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill in terms of like potential skill set wise, which is going to be the best quarterback that Vrabel's ever had to work with. Running backs, obviously, he doesn't have Derrick Henry, but like
you can make that same argument for Gardner Minshew. Like I don't know what we're talking about.
But
right
he's
now.
got like with even with New England though, he's going to have the best defense he's ever had because Tennessee's defense was solid, but they weren't like top 15 tier defenses. They were always in that 16 to 18 range. So like New England's defense would be the best.
That's not true. He had a couple of solid years. Like he had a top 5 defense a couple of times.
He was the right coach for that New England job. I think he was realistically the only one that was going to fit with what they have right now and where they want to go. Because it was a similar situation when he took over Tennessee. Tennessee was a team that didn't have much to work with when he went there. And he pretty much turned them into a consistent playoff team when he was there.
If nothing else, he was definitely the right candidate of the ones they interviewed.
Interviewed the first 2 guys on the Rooney Rule, and then here comes Mike Vrabel, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we did our work, and now here's your check.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing for Vrabel is something I alluded to earlier, is he gets an early start to go find his coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think he's already got them in mind, too.
Oh, I would imagine.
You know, like they're ready to just like, and maybe it is somebody who's already on a team or what have you, but we'll see. I don't know that if Vrabel's one of those guys that's going to need 3 years to turn that franchise around too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Sure,
he doesn't have an immense amount of pressure. It's a 4-win team that didn't look very good. So as long as they take any kind of step forward, even if it's the same wins, but the team just looks like a team.
Yeah, like he's not going to get fired after one season if they go 4-13.
Not a chance. Yeah.
I think after the Gerard Mayo, Kraft already came out and said he kind of bungled that one. So, I definitely think he gets more than just 1 year. I think Pags was more accurate. I think 3 or 4 years, I think is probably what he gets realistically.
You would think
As
so.
long as
You
he's
got to
showing
get 3
improvement.
years. Do you remember the time when these NFL teams would give a coach, you'd have to have a 5-year plan and you would get signed for 5 years. And
Yeah.
it would be like, okay, we need you to be here by year 3.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
They also drafted quarterbacks with no intention of them ever seeing the field year 1.
Right.
Oh,
Now
for
it's like
sure.
you get drafted in the first round, you're expected to see the field at least by week 5 or 6.
Yeah, and if you don't see the field year 1, you may not be on the team next year.
Right.
Like it is weird.
Yeah. They want the instantaneous quarterback right up off the rip instead of developing them. It seems
Well,
like.
and you have guys like Sean McVay too, and like when Sean McVay took over the Rams, he didn't make the playoffs in his first year, but he had enough success where you could see the direction the Rams are going to be trending. Now, like so many teams expect all these first-year head coaches to come in and have instant success and get these teams to a playoff, and it's just like that's not the norm. Like some coaches are lucky enough to have that, but more often than not, a first-year head coach is going to need 3 years just to get to even a 500 and competitive team.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they want to have their own quarterback. They don't want to be stuck with somebody.
Yeah.
And that's part of the issue. It's like, oh, I got to get stuck with this guy now.
And that's why so many teams used to do those 5-year plans with head coaches. They said the first year you come to this team, you're basically inheriting the team that the old coach had. So you're kind of sorting through the players they have. Year 2 is basically your first year. You're making this team the way you want it to look in year 2. And then by year 3 is when you should start seeing the team trending in the direction they want that team to trend.
I mean, that's the way it should work.
Yeah.
Steve-O, I don't know that I agree with that statement. And actually, a little, I thought of you as more of an intelligent guy than to have that type of statement. I mean, you usually talk really good about football, even though some of them might be considered hot takes. This is, I think that's not an intelligent thing to go. I think that there were too many issues that they had. In New England. And truth of the matter is that Mayo was handpicked by Belichick. He was handpicked by Belichick. They wanted the Belichick regime to be done.
Yeah.
That's what was that. That's like they needed the first day of the rest of their life to begin.
Yeah.
And, he had such a mess of that team.
Yeah.
So that's why. Just my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think it had anything to do with anything else.
Yep. But this one can go up, and you're not entirely wrong. They do want instant coffee when it comes to QB. They want them to presto changeo be franchise guy. And that doesn't always work out. It does sometimes. But, some guys need a little more time to percolate. We're sticking with the coffee.
Oh, look at that. Cowboys expected to interview Salah.
Yep.
There we go.
Let's go.
Of course, it
That's
hurts to
interesting.
lose a great coach like McCarthy.
What do y'all think about? What is y'all's thoughts on Salah coming to the Cowboys? Do you think that's a good? I like him defensively. I just I mean, he's a good defensive guy. I don't know. I'm not 100% sold
I
on
was going
him.
to say you need the defensive help, so it wouldn't be
Yeah,
that.
no, we do, and I would love to have him as my defensive coordinator. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm probably saying that because I'm a little skewed with how I went out there in New York. I think maybe that kind of has to be skewed a little bit on it.
Here's the thing. I don't know that I can hate on him too much for that offense not being amazing, because
Right.
you had Zach Wilson, and then
Right.
you have Rodgers that couldn't stay on the field, and then played like absolute trash even when he did. I mean, it's not like he had quarterbacks to play with.
I mean,
Right.
he still had a better record with Zach Wilson, though. They were 6-5 with Zach Wilson as opposed to whatever they were with Rodgers this year.
That's my whole point,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not like he was out there with even above average guys. Like he was saddled with terrible options. And do I think he's a decent coach? Sure. Do I think he's Tomlin, who can somehow winning records with nobody under center? But I don't think anybody else in the league has done what Tomlin's done. So, yeah, I mean, I think he could be better if he actually had quarterback that could, I don't know, play football. And that is something that Dak can do. Do I think he's amazing? No. Do I think he's basically Tony Romo? Sure. But if your defense gets better, all of a sudden you're a playoff team again.
That's a good point. I like, I saw that, but the quarterback guy for the Green Bay Packers just retired, like 71 years old. I guess he was Favre, Rodgers, and now he's got Love. Yeah. I mean, that's a long span. I thought that was interesting how much influence he's had in that Packers organization. I didn't realize he had that much, but good on him for finally being able to retire and go enjoy life. But man, I know now they're wanting Jordan Love to be more vocal. What do y'all think about that? Do you think that's going to happen? Does Jordan Love, that guy, that's kind of more right up your alley. That's your north.
He's not a vocal guy. He never has been.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily they want him to be more vocal. They want him to take more accountability. As in when he misses throws or even if it's not his fault and the offense is sluggish how they looked against the Eagles, they want him to start taking more accountability and start owning the performance of the offense more than he has.
This part makes sense.
Good enough. Okay. I understand.
So I think Romo was smarter. I think Dak delivers a little better.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the playoff situation is identical. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, but I do believe though that Tony Romo was a little bit better than Dak for sure.
Between the ears, no question.
Yeah.
But like I said before, his biggest thing was he was always hurt.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like he had a knack for getting just hammered throughout the season.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, Tony, man, jeez.
I don't know.
It's gonna take a lot.
Everybody else, I'm looking at this. They're trying who's hiring for the general manager, the head coach. And actually everybody is between the Jets and the Jaguars and the Bears. They have their lists are ridiculously long.
Yeah,
actually, for the Jets, they got a ridiculously long list for general manager and head coach.
Yeah, no, if they were to do those lists one person a day, the draft would be over by the time they get through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Louis Riddick is the top guy on the list for the Jets for general manager.
GM, yeah.
That does make sense though, because he has expressed interest in getting back into a GM role again. He's never been the GM, but he was the assistant GM in Baltimore, so he has expressed interest in getting back into an NFL front office.
This is funny. Brady's one and done. A lot of people are hating on Brady. I will say his broadcasts have gotten better throughout the course of this season. And let's be honest, if we look back to the first time we did this stuff right here, I can tell you that show was terrible. So
I just think the first time I saw Brady as a commentator on the broadcast,
for him to get thrust,
it was so awkward. It was like, what do I do with my hands? Where do I put my hand?
No. He was not good. But when you think back to the first show you did, right? Like that would have been god awful. And instead of doing it in front of the two people that know your show exists, he had to do it on national TV. So
yeah,
I mean,
I know it's hard. Yeah, I would imagine.
Like,
Absolutely.
so I give him a little bit of a pass. But you're not wrong. Like, it was bad. Like, it was not an enjoyable watch. It has gotten better. I'm still not a fan, but he's gonna get more than a one.
I would say, hey, Bo, with the money he's commanding, he should be on point. I mean, when you're getting paid that much damn money, I'm sorry, you should be on point.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you should take a salary reduction and work your way back up.
Yeah, nobody's doing that.
Oh, of course he's not doing that. I'm just
If he likes fire me, it's cool.
Yeah, no, of course he's not doing that. I'm just saying, like, the network, man, they really gave him a lot of money just to get that kind of product.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still getting eyeballs on the screen. So, I mean, it's doing what they want it to do, even if he's bad.
Well, that's true. Now, that's a good point. Yeah. That is getting eyeballs on the screen with Tom Brady, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That being said, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. If you're watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we will see you all tomorrow. Get out of here. Enjoy your day.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.